sweating yourself silly in a sauna, or working out with a sweatsuit on, or wearing a sauna vest, or working out in extreme heat, or doing hot yoga to try to sweat and to try to induce as much heat as you possibly can in your body is not crazy. Okay, in fact, there is legitimate science that backs up doing these things, working out in extreme heat, trying to make yourself exposed to more heat, sitting in a sauna. We're going to talk about this today, and I'm also going to give you some great ways that you can induce some heat in a good, safe way. All right, so we have to look at the big picture here. Heat stress is a hormetic stressor, but what exactly is a hormetic stressor? So let's break it down really simply. A hormetic stressor is where you are adapting to anything. Exercise is the simplest example of a hormetic stressor. For example, when you're exercising, you're forced to adapt. You're forced to get stronger, right? Okay. Well, when you expose yourself to heat, your body has to get stronger too. It has to adapt to that. This hormetic stressor is a really important thing. Another example, if you fast for an extended period of time, you are triggering a stress response in your body. And it's a hormetic response to get stronger and more adaptive, so your body gets more metabolically flexible. Okay. Now the cool thing about heat is, yes, it's a hormetic stressor because you're exposing yourself to heat, but it also simulates exercise to begin with. Like if you're sitting in a sauna, you're going to have vasodilation, you're going to have an increased respiration, you're going to have an increase in heart rate, very similar to exercise, just absent the movement, right? So that's great, but it goes much deeper than that at the cellular level. See, at the cellular level, we have to look at proteins, and the proteins in the body have a three-dimensional structure, and this is made up of particular folding and unfolding of these proteins. Now, what that means is that when we look closely at a protein in the body, it's going to go through phases where it unfolds, and then it folds again, and that's all to shapeshift and to form structure. But sometimes we have misfolding of these proteins, and these misfoldings, if you want to call them that, end up leading on to disease or cellular dysfunction. We want them to fold properly. Well, it turns out that our body has a natural adaptive response to heat that triggers these proteins to fold properly. You see, it looks like this. When you're working out and you're generating a lot of heat, again, maybe you're wearing a sauna vest or one of those things to generate some extra heat, or maybe you're sitting in a sauna. Well, your cells, your proteins are forced to kind of fold improperly because of the exposure to the heat. But it turns out that these things called heat shock proteins are available within our body. They get released. So these heat shock proteins protect the folding of these proteins. So it means like when you are actually exposing yourself to heat, something that would normally disrupt your cells, we have heat shock proteins that activate as an adaptive response and make sure that the cells are protected and fold properly. So this is tremendous for longevity, which I'll get to the research in a minute, but it's also good just for metabolic function and helping the body thrive in a state where it can just use fuel more efficiently and you can live up to your genetic potential. When we look at a lot of different chronic disease states, for example, we find that misfolding, protein misfolding, is the root of them. For example, Alzheimer's is an aggregation of the misfolding of tau proteins and also amyloid proteins, so ultimately leading in a disease state. Now, I'm not an expert in Alzheimer's, but I can say that when you have an aggregation of misfolded proteins in any situation, it could lead to cellular disruption, ultimately a disease state. So my point here is that, yeah, you can sit in a sauna and it's going to have these health benefits that hit you today and you feel good and you get the endorphin rush, but there very well could be a lot of links to just living for a longer period of time too. So one particular study that was published in the Journal of Experimental Biology took a look at fruit flies, yes, fruit flies, and they found that exposing them to heat did in fact increase heat shock protein levels, which had an effect on longevity via the HDAC pathway, so histone deacetylase inhibition or histone deacetylase in general. That has to do with our genetic system, okay? That's our genetic blueprint. So with histone deacetylase, we want to be able to deactivate or activate that at specific times. So in other words, heat seemingly made it so that we are able to access our genetic potential better, meaning we can live up to our potential and our body can actually rebuild cells and create stem cells and do what it needs to do at the right point in time if we expose ourselves to heat. It's pretty fascinating stuff. Now, sure, I want to talk about longevity, I want to talk about health, but I also want to talk about practical use and things that you can do. So In this video, I am going to break down ways that you can induce heat shock proteins, okay? One of the things that I usually like to do is sit in a sauna, okay? Sitting in a sauna is a tremendous way to, of course, stimulate heat shock proteins. In fact, there was one study that was published in 2015 that took a look at Finnish people that used a lot of saunas, and a lot of Scandinavian countries use saunas. They found, when following them for 20.7 years, that there was a dose-dependent effect on sauna usage, along with cardiovascular disease and causes of death that were related to cardiovascular disease or even just other sudden death. What that means when it's dose dependent is that the more that they use the sauna, the less that they died from diseases. Okay, now that's pretty wild, right? But then we can take it even a step further. Okay, this held true even when they factored in things like BMI, when they factored in if they smoked, if they drank, anything like that. So what that means is that regardless of what they were doing, it was sort of on a sliding scale. So it found that yes, saunas at the end of the day definitely had a dose-dependent effect on these people living for a longer period of time. And this is taking a look at over 2,300 subjects. It's a big study, okay? Now, some of the things that you can do, okay, obviously sitting in a sauna is great, but not everyone can sit in a sauna. There's things like you can go do hot yoga. So hot yoga is just a great way to expose yourself to a lot of heat in a way that is functional. Okay, obviously the heat is going to make it so you're more pliable, so you can get into movements better and things like that, but I look at it from the metabolic side of things. Another thing that you can do is work out with one of those sauna vests. Okay, so the sauna vests are like neoprene little vests that you wear, and you can work out and they stimulate more heat. Okay, basically you're retaining more of your body heat, so you're stimulating the effect of sitting in a sauna or working out in a sauna. So pretty cool little things. And you can also wear those things when you sit in a sauna to exacerbate the effects of a sauna. So you're going out for a run, you can wear a sauna vest, always trying to find ways to generate more heat. I don't live in Arizona, so I can't go for a run in 125-degree weather like I would like to. And I'm not saying that you push yourself to the limit, but you do all these different things that are gonna at least allow more heat shock proteins. We're always trying to expose ourselves to as much stress as possible. You can get those little sauna vests down below. I put a link down below. A company called Coolio makes them. You can get them with a zip up. You can get them where they just slip on over, and you just simply work out with them on. And you will definitely notice within like 10, 15 minutes, you feel like you're working out in a sauna. You're sweating a bunch. It's just a quick way and inexpensive way if you can't get an infrared sauna in your house or anything like that. So special link down below if you want to check them out, if you're interested in, I don't know, elevating your heat shock protein levels within your body. Definitely want to check them out. So sure, there's also some fat loss effects and everything like that, okay? Of course, you're gonna increase thermogenesis, so you potentially increase fat loss. You also increase vasodilation, and then we're also talking about, increasing respiration, increasing heart rate, which of course has ties with fat burning. I mean, one of the clearest day outlines to burning more calories is increasing your heart rate. So if you can generate more heat and make it so you're ultimately getting your heart rate up, then yeah, one could argue that you could potentially burn more fat. I think it's pretty safe to say that. Of course, everybody is different. Now, let's take a look at the disease states for a second. When we talk about the protein folding and misfolding, it would make sense that saunas and working out in extreme heat would have a better effect on disorders that are related to protein misfolding. Well, when we take a look at the study that we talked about earlier, okay, that experimental biology study, it found that it had a better result on disease states. For example, with Alzheimer's, it was a 65% reduction in Alzheimer's disease in those that did more sauna usage. Again, it just ties in with diseases that are related to protein folding and unfolding. I mean, you look at like cancer, for example. Cancer doesn't really have to do with protein unfolding and folding, but other diseases do. So sure, there is a little bit more of a particular time in which saunas would work better. Point is, you can always have a benefit by stressing yourself out the right way. It's more about how you perceive that stress that could be damaging. Okay? I always say, stress is stress. Okay, the stress of a 5-year-old that's excited to go to Disneyland tomorrow is the same exact stress that one would experience because they just got a big tax bill. It's all about how it's perceived, okay? So how we perceive stress is how our body manipulates and changes it and makes it good or bad. Good stress is always good because we're gonna adapt and get stronger. And Rhonda Patrick is someone that talks about this all the time, and to her credit, a lot of the things I'm talking about in this video are things that she's talked about and things that she talks about at great length and in much more detail than me. So I will put a link below for any stuff that you want to see from her. But I highly recommend that you give everything a shot. You try working out in extreme heat. Just do things in moderation at first. You try using a sauna if you haven't already. You try inducing these heat shock proteins. You try wearing a sauna vest and actually stimulating more heat. You try hot yoga. Try hot yoga with a sauna vest. Anyhow, any ways that you can increase your hormetic effect. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.